You didn't tell me you were recording it. So, as I said earlier, I'm David Wilson. My business is Glued. We're a marketing, brand, design business. And as I said, I didn't really know what to talk about, so I was then said, oh, let's talk about digital marketing. So I wanted to put something together that helps us here and now. So we're all doing some networking now, and obviously digital marketing is a huge thing. So what can you do now after this event that might help you to make better connections or to use digital marketing that you're probably already doing in your business to use it more effectively? So I'm going to explain what digital marketing is in about 3 sentences. A bit of best practice of what you might do after this event, how you could follow things up using digital marketing and strategy, and then using digital marketing to do sales. Now, we're all kind of in the sales business, I suppose, by being here. So how can you use some of the techniques that we'll talk about now? So I expect most of you should have heard of it. Has anybody not heard of any of those titles? So SEO, search engine optimization, it's really important to get your website so it is people can find you. So even if you're here now at this event, I might go off and Google you. Well, can I find you? Will I find your business? It's really important to think about that. So SEO. We're all very familiar with social media. My business is now 21 years old, and I remember driving home from work in like the early 2000s and hearing about this strange new service called Twitter. I was like, why would anybody want to do that? So things have really massively changed over the years, and obviously now social media is a huge part of everybody's business. But do you use it in the right way? It's important to think about it, or why are you using it? Email marketing. Email marketing has been around forever, well, for many, many years, and I actually think it's a really powerful way of growing your business, and a really important part of digital marketing. And I think people overlook it, they sort of forget about it. But if you think about social media platforms, if you post anything on social media, it belongs to Meta, it doesn't belong to you anymore, because their terms and conditions are designed so that actually you're handing over your information. Equally, if you've built up a network on, say, LinkedIn, that information belongs to LinkedIn, not you. Whereas the advantage of email marketing is the database of names is yours. So actually email marketing is a great way of controlling what you're up to. Not to say that Meta or anybody are going to stop you from using those services, but I think email marketing is one of those things that's overlooked in the sort of digital marketing space. And then content marketing, there's lots of different definitions of what that is, but I'm basically going to say that's what you post to the outside world. So when you're on social media or your email marketing or what's on your website, that's all about creating the right content. So we're all content creators if you do anything on social media. It's about what you post and is it of interest to your audience. So best practices. So search engine optimization, I'm not an expert on. It is a really important part of your website and what it does. So fundamentally, it's about if you're looking for something, you'll come up as a result. Now, years and years ago, search engine optimization all used to be about keywords, but it's now far more complicated than that. But it is fundamentally about good content on your website and saying the right things so that people can find you. So it's worth looking at your website, your business's website, and reflecting on, does it really say the right things? Is it actually saying what you do, the impact you have on your clients perhaps? These are all things that if it's saying those things, then you're more likely that search engine optimization will work. I don't know why I don't say SEO really, that would be easier. But try and optimize your content, try and make sure it's correct and it says what you're trying to say. And then my other advice would be talk to an expert about it. You can throw a lot of money at SEO, and equally I would say you probably don't need to do that, but you need to make sure, have you got basic things set up on your website to mean that a search engine can search it properly? And if you do those things, then you'll have some success. So that's the thing, if I now go away now and say, oh, I want to Google that person, will it show you their website and so forth? Social media, you know, we're all on social media, but again, step back from it and say, why do you want it? And do you need to be on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok? Because are the people that you're trying to talk to, are they on those platforms? I think a lot of people will say focus on one or perhaps two platforms. You know, so if you're doing business to business, then LinkedIn is probably the best platform for you. But equally, if you're in a visual industry, let's say, then Instagram or something like that might be an also a relevant platform to be on. But if you're selling, if you're an accountant, then is there any need to be on on Instagram? You know, you might say that LinkedIn is much more relevant. Again, Facebook, you know, how does it fit in? So again, talk to somebody that kind of knows your sector and can give you advice, but aim to do one platform well rather than lots of platforms poorly. Because at the end of the day, if you've set up your SEO right, then people will look for you, they'll find your website, for example, but actually connections, it'll then take you to LinkedIn or whatever platform you prefer to be using. I now know a lot of people who don't use Twitter or X as it's now called because they just don't like the platform. So, you know, is there any need to be on that platform? Yes or no? But it's definitely thinking about your customers and where they're likely to be is a really key thing for social media. And the other things is thinking about posting consistently. So let's say you've gone with LinkedIn as a platform. Make sure that you try and post regularly. Make sure that your content is sort of consistent. Even if you're, you know, I used to try and post all the time and I ended up finding that too much. So, you know, try and say, well, I'm going to post 3 times a week, or I'm going to share something, you know, have a plan, think about what you can do, but be realistic, don't go mad, don't try and do everything, think about what you can do to get people to just start trusting and liking you. Social media is always going to be about building trust. You know, a lot of digital marketing is about that. It's about, you know, if I say, well, I'm a graphic designer, there are thousands of graphic designers out there everywhere. So people have got to know what I do, but they've got to like and trust me. And some people won't want to work with me. Some people look at me and go, he's got lots of tattoos, I don't like the look of him. And that's fine, they'll work with somebody else. But just make sure that you're always posting something consistently and being authentic, and then you'll attract like-minded people. Email marketing, does anybody who uses email marketing? Anybody? A couple of people, good. So email marketing is something that probably some of you should go away and think about. Over the years, we've found it for our own sales, it's a very effective tool because you're continuously putting your brand or your business or you yourself in people's mind. And we've often said that email marketing is about those coincidence of wants. If you can share relevant, interesting content, your audience will engage with it. And eventually they'll go, oh, I remember that company. You know, for example, you know, if I was looking at me, I'd say, oh, somebody needs a website, and they would keep our business in mind. They might receive email marketing from us for 5 years and not need a website, but at least we're reminding them through kind of advice and case studies or the things that they might be interested in. When they then come to that buying decision, they'll go, oh, actually, I remember that business, I'll talk to them. So email marketing is a great way of drip feeding people. It's also very good for being able to keep on track of who's opened things, who's clicked things, who's viewed. So we've often used it as a way of, you know, we go in each time we've broadcast one and we say, well, okay, these 20 people opened it, or these 10 people then clicked. We can then phone those people and have a conversation with them. And that's then equally amazing what sort of engagement you get, because something has interested them, but they've decided to click on the link to open it. So again, with social media, you're pumping stuff out, let's say, but you don't necessarily know who's looked at it. So especially if you're on, say, a LinkedIn business page, you can't necessarily see who's looked at your posts. So email marketing is a platform that's easier to see who's accessed it. So we would say that it's a really good way of starting to engage people. So, you know, if I'm being organised, if I'm following my own process, any business cards I've got from here, I'll take them, I'll go and add them to our email database, so that then you'll start receiving emails from us eventually. And I don't always do that because I'm not always very good. But it is amazing that you can then build up a database over time of people who you've already met probably. So in this context, if you then receive an email from me in the future, you'll go, well, yeah, I met that guy, I remember him. And that's the beginning of starting to move to becoming a new customer, let's say. And again, with email, if you can be engaging, think about what might be of interest to your audience. So again, making that content relevant. Try not to be too selly. You know, if I was here trying to sell you stuff, you'd all be particularly uninterested, but I'm trying to share some knowledge, so these sessions are good. You could equally do that in your email, that you could say, well, you know, what 5 things can I share with my potential customers that might engage them? And there's all sorts of things that you can do. So provide that value, it'll really help. Content marketing, so you know, there's so much content out there, you've got to think about what can you tell people that's relevant and interesting. Try and give people advice rather than trying to sell to them, would always be our advice. Be authentic, try and just be yourself. If you're working for a business, try and reflect the business's values, but at the end of the day, you want to be fundamentally authentic about yourself. So don't be afraid of sharing things that are to do with how you work or the processes you go through, because that will be really interesting to a potential customer, and gives them confidence that you know what you're talking about. So you know, try and share as much content as you can that engages people, and if you are sharing that content, then like-minded people are going to connect with you all the time. So it builds that trust over time. So all of these things together will start to create content that's engaging. If you've got your website or your social media set up right, people will be able to find you by doing a Google search, and they'll start being able to see that you're actually sharing some content that's interesting and helpful. So we're at a networking event today. So what should you now go, so if you've got some business cards, what should you go off and do with them to make them more useful to your audience? Well, CRM tools are a really great place to start. You know, take the details you've got and try and put them onto a platform that organises them for you. You could just do this in a day. You could do this in your email. You could do it in Excel, but there are lots of CRMs around that help you to manage your systems. They also integrate with social media and email marketing. And it will mean that in the future, you can potentially send personalised messages to your potential customers. So in the instance of our business, we do stuff like this, so business to business. We also do quite a lot of work for universities and colleges. So messages that we might want to talk to them about doing their marketing campaigns is different to a business owner. So we try and take the data and tag it, so we can go, well, these people here are education, these people here are business to business. So when we come to write some content, the CRM system will help us to say, well, actually these people will get that message, all these people over here won't get that message because they're not interested. Equally, you might say, well, I'm going to tag people by the things that they might be interested in. So, you know, if I want to buy something or other, then if I start receiving information from you that's not relevant, I'm likely to just delete it. Whereas if you know a bit of information about your potential customer, you can start sending them more tailored messages. And obviously the more tailored they are, the more likely they are to work. AI is kind of making this a lot easier, so you can use AI tools to help you segment audiences and help you to write content that's relevant for them. And the similar thing with personalised follow-ups. Do try and follow things up. I mean, the timely response, 24 to 48 hours. I'm rubbish at that. I'm really bad at following things up quickly, and any advice that you ever look at, it says that, you know, if I meet somebody today, if I'm going to follow up in a couple of days, there's a chance they'll still remember me. Because I don't know about you, but if somebody contacts me from 2 weeks ago, I'm usually like, I don't remember who you are. It might just be that I've got a really bad memory. But kind of taking advantage of that kind of immediacy is likely to help you quite a lot. And it's the same with anything really. If you're going to a network event, use social media to tell people that you're doing that and do it in a timely way. The more personalised you can be, the better. And we would say that, you know, if you can segment that data, then you are going to be able to send a more personalised message. And even if that doesn't seem relevant now for you, we would still say trying to structure your contacts with a little bit of segmentation will probably help, because you don't know in the future, you might suddenly go, well, actually, I want to tell people about this particular event I've got going, and it's only relevant to a part of the audience. I receive so many emails. The ones that I probably engage with the most are the ones that are relevant to me, and that will be the same for everyone in the room. Say something relevant to them rather than telling them generally what you do, trying to sort of help solve their problem. Using digital marketing for sales, that sounds exciting. If you're using, say, email marketing, there's a lot of, or your website, there's things called analytics. So you've probably all heard of Google Analytics, for example. It can tell you what people have been clicking on. If you're using something like MailChimp for email marketing, it will tell you who's opened what, when they opened it, what they clicked on, and all sorts of things. So there's lots of things that you can look at to understand whether or not any digital marketing you're doing is having any impact. And it's worth looking at over and over, because you'll find that some of what you're doing is not relevant, or it has no benefit. There's, you know, busy fools can be a very relevant thing, and analytics will help you overcome that. So it'll make you go, well, actually I'm spending all this time on, let's say, Instagram, but it's actually not delivering anything. It's not building awareness, let's say, if people are not engaging with it. So stop doing it. Or equally say to yourself, what happens if we stop doing that? Does it impact on inquiries? Do they change? Because if nothing changes, then there's no point doing it. You could equally then say, well, I'll spend much more time on LinkedIn, and you might find that your engagement goes up. So you can look at Google Analytics and go, well, actually, since I changed tack and tried something different, you know, visitors to the website have gone up. And the whole reason for experimenting is to say that none of us really, there's no magic wand when it comes to digital marketing. There's no right or wrong way of doing anything. So trying, experimenting, so saying I'm going to spend 3 months doing this, for example, see what impact that has, and then try something else. Because you can easily come back to it again. And I think that sort of experimentation will generally help people massively, because you can go, well, actually, you know, I've now realised that my audience is over here, and that's what I should be focusing We've actually got some clients who, believe it or not, don't do any digital marketing because they do all face-to-face. It's a relationship building. You know, they pick up the phone, they make calls, and that works for them. So don't assume, because we're talking here about digital marketing, that you need to do any of it. You need to understand it. You need to see, does it have an impact on your business? But it might not be relevant, or it might be really, I'd imagine it will be very relevant for everyone. But don't assume, try different things. Retargeting campaigns. So the logic of this is that if you think about, say, social media that's coming from my business, it'll be general, it's probably awareness building, it's advice, it's trying to get people to engage. People sometimes talk about clickbait, and it's trying to get people to look on something to find out more. Once they've clicked, what do you want to do with that? Do you want to try and get them to sign up to an email newsletter? Because once you've captured a bit of data, if somebody's visited your website, let's say, if they fill in, yes, they want to receive tips and tricks, let's say, on things, you've then got their data. What do you do with it? Well, the answer is you try and target them again with something more relevant. So if we've spoken at a networking event, then I know the sort of people you are. I can say, well, I could then target you again in the future through an ad campaign or through sending you an email as something that's more relevant. So if you think about my business again, I might be saying general things to people who don't know us. For people who we've got their data, or that they've clicked on things, they've engaged, they'll get a slightly different message because it's then a bit more selly perhaps. It's trying to get them to take further action. So retargeting means that you're focusing more and more on the messages that seem relevant, so that you're taking people from not knowing you through to becoming a customer. And then finally, building trust. So I can stand here and witter on for 10 minutes about things, but you don't trust me, you don't know me, why would you trust me? But over time, using digital marketing, if you were to connect, hopefully you would start trusting me. And you would know, well, he's an expert in these fields. And so it's that gradual process that digital marketing is great at, that it takes people from not knowing you, not trusting you, to knowing you and trusting you, and they might want to become a customer. So I think that's almost the end of mine. It is. That is the end of my exciting presentation. So if you do want to connect, you can scan that QR code. Does anyone have any questions? Stunned silence. Thank you very much. There you go.